Yeah.
10 minutes of extra. And you're not getting any extra credit. You're here because you get paid.
You don't have to. You're not going to select something later. I might. Okay, I might be watching it. But
That's the key. That's what I was kind of saying.
Right. Okay. I just can't be there. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I figured we can all stuff out. Yeah.
sites of southern France and a little factory where they make reeds and mouthpieces. And then we can do kind of like an AMA sort of thing.
Also, you gotta let me know when Jack's
Hopefully you'll have questions.
very fine.
If someone has a question during it,
Oh, it's
we can
been.
probably just do it that way too, or if you want to save it up. What do you guys save it up or get it out in the middle of it?
That time,
Tell me.
you're rock.
All right, I'm going to talk fast. You just be kind of like, and then we'll figure it out after. So, okay. Yeah, let's just do this. So, you guys all know the Vandoren name, right? It's been around since 1905. The company officially became a company then. Started by a guy named Eugene Vandoren who studied clarinet, and back then, music was part of what everybody did. He was in some of the orchestras in Paris. He was good at making reeds. Back then you made them by hand. His colleagues wanted them. Said, hey, would you sell me some? And his wife said, why don't you get out of the printing business, and why don't you make reeds? That's where your passion is and all this. And he listened. They developed machinery to do that. Started a business. His son, who was born, Robert Vandoren. Robert Vandoren was also a clarinetist from the Paris Conservatory. Got his prize. He traveled all over, kind of promoting the company name, and that was kind of the beginning where mouthpieces became a thing for Vandoren. So we're talking the mid to late 20s is where it all started. His son, Bernard Vandoren, is my boss. He's in his early 70s. He knew he was destined to kind of take over the family business, so they were a little bit more pragmatic. He took clarinet and saxophone lessons from some famous teachers in France at the time, but he ended up going to engineering school. And he's responsible for all kind of modernization in the factory, technology used to make reeds and mouthpieces. Now, the fourth generation is getting involved with this. Robert Vandoren, who's 22 or 23 years old, and he's kind of a geek about technology too, so he's all into that. Now, Vandoren all told, between the people I'm going to call farmers, the people that maintain and work in the cane fields and inside the factory, probably number around 150 people, 30 of which are scientists, like not music scientists, pure, that went and studied different things, that work in the factory, that help work, develop new products, machines and things like that. There are people that work in the factory that are also musicians that regularly visit and call testers, so they'll test samples of production to make sure that 3 reeds are coming out looking like 3s or playing like 3s, and mouthpieces and this. Now, because it's a natural product, there's always going to be some sort of variety, of course. But you'll see in the manufacturing process how we try to deal with that and go from there. Also over here, well, first of all, everybody gets lanyards, pencils, stickers, and some free reeds. Here there's actually samples to see the reed process. We'll see there. I brought a couple of mouthpieces. I didn't bring a lot because I knew we didn't have a lot of time, and I like to talk, as you might have guessed by now. So here we go with the slideshow. From Cane to Beautiful Music. It sounds like a lovely thing. It could be a movie. That's a video. It's on. So there you are in the south of France, okay? Top of the screen is the Mediterranean Sea. This is the Var region. If anybody knows the legendary Var region where cane grows, and it's where cane can grow in a lot of different places, but because it's there, you're dealing with different winds that converge, and it actually blows the cane around and makes it stronger. We'll see more about that in a minute. The factory you could see is the large building at the bottom, all connected all the way up, and everything is done there. There's a view of the cane fields in the Mediterranean Sea, huh? All of us wish we could be right there right now. Even if it, well, it'd be dinner time. That's in the middle of a cane field. So you can plant a cane field. You'll see on the next slide it's a root system. You can sort of plant it, but cane is a wild species. It's invasive. It's very hard to get rid of. It's very strong. You can't kill it. It's really, really great, actually, in terms of people wanting to grow and cultivate it, make reeds out of it. It's wonderful for us. So they'll plant this, but because it'll grow, they have to put big spaces, and eventually it closes up. Cane, for us, you see that's the root system, rhizome. That's what's underground. So early growth provides final down. Okay, so when a stalk of cane breaks the ground, breaks through the earth, we know what size it is. It could be like this, or it could be like this, and everything in the middle. So this you can use maybe to make oboe cane reeds, and this for saxophone kind of. You can get even a little bit bigger, and even a little bit smaller. We'd have to cull it all out to know what we can make reeds out of. So the minute it breaks through the earth, let's just say after a couple of months of growth, we can say, oh, that's going to be this big, we give it this width, or it's going to be this width. So, our cane for our reeds, we grow for 2 years. The first year it grows to its final height, which is a good 20 feet or so. See, unwanted cane is removed. See, I'm ahead of my own slideshow. First year it gets its height. The second year it's going to gain its flexibility. The wind is going to sway back and forth. It's going to support its own weight. It's going to mature. You could let it grow forever, cut it, and make reeds too. Just characteristics of the reed might be different. It might not work and vibrate and react the same. So we do 2 years. In the middle, they're getting rid of, so there's room for these cane poles to sway back and forth. Now, 20 feet of cane stalk. Wow, you must think that's a lot of reeds. We don't use all of that to make reeds. So inside, it grows. You can see, I'm going to hop up here to show. You can see those things, those are what we call nodes. That's what separates the poles. They're segments, it's hollow tubes. Bamboo, it's all similar sort of thing. It's not exactly the same family. Cane is not bamboo, bamboo is not cane. It's very different, but it's the same concept to explain. This, Arundodontox, this music cane, is actually in the grass family, okay? But it's very strong. It makes great reeds. They also make fishing poles, furniture, all sorts of things like that, because it's abundant, it's there, and it's strong. Okay, winter is harvest time. Now you can see it went from looking very green to now it's just this kind of yellowish color. We harvest in the wintertime because all the saps, everything, it's like nothing's moving. It's kind of goes dormant, we'll say. So it's better for us to harvest them. Now, because they grow over 2 years and they grow kind of wild, each cane pole is cut by hand, like that. So, again, in these steps, someone's getting rid of stuff that they know isn't the right size. Then they're knowing, all right, this is 2 years, we're going to harvest this. This is 1 year, leave it alone. Then they're taken, carried, and bundled up, and brought to the side of the cane field. Now, I was saying to Walter, does anybody here know what slides are? Slide projector, like the old thing, the little squares. So I've been doing this for nearly 20 years. Wow. And I used to have this slideshow, and the thing invariably dumped on the ground, and there was a scratch on a slide right near the guy's carrying a bundle, and it looked like it could have been a cigarette in his mouth, but it wasn't. It was just a scratch. But it was a great time to bring up talking about disasters, tragedies, problems with cane, a bad year, or this, that, or the other thing. Cigarette, oh, did the cane field didn't catch fire and burn the ground, or it was a bad year for this. No, cane is so strong, there's really only one way to destroy cane, is if you get an early frost before harvest, like say for some reason you get a big frost, temperatures dropping, I'm gonna guess, August or September or something like this, really won't happen in the VAR region. Then what would happen is all the sap, for lack of a better word, would expand, right, on a cellular level because it freezes, and it would kind of break apart all of the fibers and stuff inside, and then it would still work, but it might not have the same sort of resiliency that would work because the structure would have changed. Okay, so there's no, it's not a parallel between, oh, good year for wine, a good year for this. To grow cane, you need sun, heat, and water. For us to make good music cane, we need wind. The wind sways the cane back and forth and supports its weight, making it more flexible. Okay. Right, so this machine is stripping leaves and shoots off of the poles. And you can see in the back that they're stacked. Now, natural sunning process. So they get put out in basically chicken wire that's in these racks that they stand each pole in, and halfway through the 3 to 4 weeks, someone comes, turns it over. They used to do it, lay it on the ground, and they would turn it, but someone thought, hey, wait a second, if we stand them up, the sun travels across, it's going to get the whole hole on all the sides, then we flip it over, so it saved time. And that's, as far as you can see, is cane pole being sunk. Then, after 2 years of all this, then it gets put into a warehouse with a roof but no walls for 2 more years. So what happens here is it's gonna go through 2 years of climate varieties, changes. The 4 seasons, now don't get me wrong, the 4 seasons of the south of France are pretty great as we stand here talking in Boston, but it still will change. It'll be more and less humid and stuff. And this gets the cane to kind of stable. After these 4 years, 2 years of growth, 2 years of this, they finally end up at the factory. This is talking about the different parts. I think everybody at this point knows the heel and vamp, right? If you don't, you can stay after class and I'll explain.
Okay.
There it is, especially you in the back. Actually, you know what, you go straight to detention. You're hopeless. This is college, they don't have detention.
Sorry.
All right, so because it's a natural plant and it's growing wild, it's not just a straight pole that grows up and it's segmented. If you pass these around, you can look. They're different sizes. If you look at both ends, the shapes are different. It's not perfectly cylindrical at all. The thicknesses are different, so we have to determine based on internal thickness, how straight the tube is. Can we make reeds out of it? Can we do, or not? Now, what I didn't say, which I should back up, it grows 20 feet tall, these stalks. We only use the bottom 6 feet. Why the bottom 6 feet? Because that's the one that's been exercised the most. It's the most flexible. It's supporting the weight. It's the fulcrum for the rest of the pole. Swing back and forth. Well, what do you do with all the rest? Well, the rest we use for mulch, or we have a furnace to heat the factory when it gets burned. Now, we're burning something and everybody gets afraid, well, the CO2 emissions, the size of our cane field, it actually counterbalances, in fact, does more for the environment in processing carbon dioxide. Make sense? We're all a little ways away from science class, but I'm trying to remember as best I can. So there you go. So now we're in the factory. We're going to make reeds. Take out the nodes out. You're left with these tubes that are floating around here. Okay, so now the cane tube is analyzed. So we've got optic sensors that are, all right, if you look at the computer screen, see the circle in the middle of it? So that's taking the 6-foot pole, it's cutting out a little node, it's getting the hollow tubes, it's examining the tubes, and then it's determining yes or no. Then it splits the tube into 4 pieces, like these. You'll see. All of it, I mean, it used to be done with gauges and by eye, but over time, technology, modernization. Go ahead. So it's split in quarters. That's what you're left with. So now, it gets put into this shaker. It's got cornmeal in it. And why? It's going to polish the cane and it's going to get rid of splinters, because if you feel, we can pass these around, you can feel, those don't have any because they've been passed around for a couple of years, but it's rough. I mean, so they do that, and this is where some more aspects of visual inspection come by. If something doesn't look right to people, they're going to pull it out. Every step, there's someone looking and seeing. Now we've cut the table flat. We have the round thing that looks red is actually spinning. It's a diamond cutting wheel that's cutting the back part of the reed flat. This is actually kind of a cool thing. They have a conveyor belt that actually works by suction, because the rounded blank is held down, and then they cut the table flat. You're left with this. Okay, then they get shaped to make it more or less look like a reed. Then each reed is put into a cartridge. You see at the back of the left of the slide, to be prepared to be put in a machine to actually cut. Okay, now the front of the screen, front of the slide, the metal part, is what they call the patron, the model, the boss. It's the design. It's the shape of the reed band. And how reeds are cut is very much like when you have a key copy at a hardware store. You have your key, that's the model, and you have the blank key that gets cut. So, in the back of the slide, you see a piece of reed blank, and basically what happens, wheels roll over the metal, and a blade cuts the reed following the same contour. Every reed gets 100 cuts of a, 100 cuts with a blade. There you can see the action shot. It's those little pieces of cane flying up there. Can everybody see that? Okay, we're almost there. So now it looks like a reed. It's got everything except the tip cut. So now they cut the tip with the world's most amazing reed trimmer. Now, I'm going to climb up on the stage here again. Second. We've talked about making reeds. We haven't talked anything about size and strength yet, right? Well, this is where we figure it out. We've 4 years, we've grown the reed. We've gone into the factory, we've gone all these steps to make a reed. Now we're finally going to measure to see what it is. So this is your reed right here, okay? And up at the top, now I'm definitely height challenged. You can see the tip of the reed is being flexed. The resistance the reed provides the machine, the computer, determines its strength, okay? So we make them all the same, but it's really the cane itself that determines the strength. So if you measure with precise tools, everything is similar in all these different points, but it's the flexibility that gives a reed its strength, okay? And if you want to play mental games about things, you can talk about flexibility more than strength. One is more flexible, less flexible. Like I get to field all the complaint questions. Oh, my reed, blah, 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 this and that. And, you know, my favorite is, my reed sucks. It's your fault, help. And I have to follow it up by saying, all right, could you do a little better than that? By it sucks, does that mean it's fuzzy and bright and collapses? Is it fuzzy, dull, and doesn't vibrate? You know, you got to transpose all this to make sense. And invariably, it's either, oh, you're probably playing on something that's too soft, or you're playing on something that's too hard. But we'll get to talk about that in a minute too. So we finally cut and measured. Then it gets put into the flow pack, right? And shipped around the world. There's all the different information about thicknesses and all that sort of stuff. All right, this is someone else's idea of what these do. Okay. I mean, honestly, anybody could tell you what a specific reed does, but let's be very honest, the way we all play is very different. So the way the reed works for Walter might be very different how it works for you and how it works for me. It doesn't mean you'll get maybe a similar hint of sound, but obviously the mouthpiece is different, the air pressure, the jaw pressure, the oral cavity, I mean, everything changes. So I try to look at reeds as the tool, believe it or not, to make your sound, to make the music, and that sounds maybe a little feel-goody, but it's really the truth. I mean, this is how you interface with an instrument, right? The reed, because it doesn't make any beautiful sounds without a reed on the mouthpiece. So. Okay, the jazz reeds, the different, blah, blah, blah. This is all, you can find all this online somewhere, I'm sure. Mouthpieces, okay. Anybody, do I need to pull over for a second? Anybody need a break, or it's not too much information? We got questions bubbling up? Yeah, no, maybe, no. Well, we'll keep going anyway. So, we've been making mouthpieces for, I guess now it's 80 plus years. I mean, we made mouthpieces for instruments that don't even exist anymore. You know, C-melody saxophones and, you know, all this sorts of fun stuff. It's something we take a lot of pride in. There's a lot of work to it. We make our mouthpieces from molded blanks. I don't know what you guys know what tip opening and facing is. Okay, this is just a machine. So we get a molded blank. Why do we do that? Because the inside of a mouthpiece, which would be hardest to machine, can be very complicated if you're not limited to where tools can reach. So make the inside fairly complex, and a mold, it's a liquid substance that could put around a mold, and then it's finished. Then we just machine the outside. You can see here, we're cutting. This happens to be an alto mouthpiece. Cutting, polishing, before there's even a facing on. Cork on the mouthpiece, still no facing. Now, so this is a stopped picture. There's, again, another diamond cutting tool that's cutting the table. And if you ever look at our mouthpieces, you see there's this slightly concave, convex, concave, I'm having trouble with these things. This shape, this slight U shape, that's this wheel spinning, cutting the facing. in a circular motion. It's not scraped like that, it's cut. Yeah, now you can see the difference that's in the middle and how much material gets removed. See from the left of this line to the center. And then they're hand finished, okay, to remove anything from molding and stuff. And this is where we kind of play with the baffle a little bit and we can generate different types of colors and sounds. How much material is there? There you go. And ligatures, we make ligatures too. They're all made in-house. And we make t-shirts. No, wait. Harness, okay. If anybody plays a heavy instrument, you should know about the harness. I know a couple people in this room that would speak well of it. And anybody here at Juno reeds? In case you're going to be a band director or you're going to teach beginners, these are reeds that we designed specifically for a beginner student, okay? What does that mean? It's a reed that's going to vibrate quickly but have enough spine so that you can play a whole scale. You know, a soft beginner reed kind of can I say crap out. People stop working when you kind of get to go over the break on the clarinet or you start to get into the second octave of the saxophone, right? This they designed to try to hold up for that. And in fact, one of the engineers that was working on this told me, he says, this is an incredibly interesting project because you have to make something that works really easy but yet has enough to hold back so it doesn't collapse on the student playing. So that's what they developed, and of course a reed is a reed, so now I know there's a lot of serious, because it's a brighter reed, a lot of jazz players that really like that. And for the band director, they love them and the parents because they're cheap. They're affordable, excuse me. For the budget conscious. Okay. But they're really great and they exist for everything, from E flat to bass clarinet, from soprano to baritone saxophone. And blah blah blah. Websites. Follow us on Facebook and tweet us on Instagram. Wait, what? You guys know it's a joke. It's all that sort of stuff. So I think that's pretty much the end. Questions? Did you like the New York accent? No questions, huh? Gotta have something. Yes, sir.
What material? You may have already said. What
I
material
did.
what material do you use for the mouthpieces?
Okay, so we metal mouthpieces and hard rubber. So hard rubber. The mouthpieces are made out of hard rubber, ebonite, which is the first polymer in science, another scientific thing. The joining of materials. So they're made out of rubber, sulfur, and linseed oil. That makes this material. Mouthpieces is probably the smallest application of this material. You find it a lot in electronics because it's an insulator. Plus, you know, handrails on escalators, same sort of stuff. But the world has made mouthpieces out of everything from metals to glass to ivory to plastics to, you know.
Is the same same formula or combination that you use for all your mouthpieces, or do you use a different combination for classical?
No, it's all, the material is always the same. Even if some of the finishes, like there's a new classical alto mouthpiece and there's new classical clarinet mouthpieces where the look looks different, and the first question was, oh, it must be a different material. It's just not polished as much. We went for a different thing than we wanted.
Why does different ligature affects the feeling that much?
Well, sorry. So different ligatures. We'll talk about different styles comparing. You have different materials holding it, different tension on the mouthpiece and the reed, dampening or enhancing different vibrations. So that all changes. Then, if you have the same type of ligature and you change the plating, it can be a smaller level of difference. But believe it or not, it can change things. Is it you know, get the job, not get the job type of difference? I don't think so. But it's certainly from the player's side of the mouthpiece a comfort issue of, wow, I like this, or this helps me get a sound I like more than not. Yes, sir.
In terms of reeds, well, I prefer unfiled reeds, but I've never really understood what the difference
Okay.
is. I just know that I tend to like unfiled reeds more. What is the difference in terms of the process?
The company, well, what's the easiest way to say this? We've done experiments with unfiled reeds, then we had plate tested and then went back and cut them. it's an aesthetic difference. It's not really gonna change how a reed vibrates. Because if you think of the length of the vamp, when you're getting to the very back part, if there's, that part, I mean, it's more sympathetic vibration than actual vibration to make a sound, so it's really an aesthetic thing. Like a French cut, they call it, or whatever. I mean, it's a million names for these sorts of things, but it's aesthetic. You know, we made the Java Red reeds that are our first file cut jazz reed. Why? Because people want, well, we want a file cut because they're convinced that that's a difference. So we're like, you know what? We're going to make a new reed, and we're going to make it file cut. That was Mr. Vandoren's idea, and he. But then everyone was like, well, we just file cut a Java. And he's like, no, we're not going to do that because we know that doesn't make a difference. We're going to make a different reed, and it'll be file cut. And it's, every time we make a new product, the goal is to get people that aren't playing our stuff to play. We don't want to make a subtle little tweak to take away from our own market, if that makes sense, right? So we want to make something different.
So the red and green are truly very different reeds.
Yeah, even though they are both Javas, they're not the same. And if you ever notice trying different reed cuts, the strengths don't line up. If you try like a V16 3, doesn't play like any of the Java 3s. That's just going to happen because the cut's different. It's designed to work and function differently. So what you want to do, you're going to find what works for you. And then the good thing is why they're also different. For the people that can't find their space in a box of reeds, meaning I need hard 3s or soft 3.5s. Well, why don't you maybe use this cut? Puts you sort of in that area. You know what I mean? So you know, a lot of people think about the reed as giving them a particular sound. We understand that, but we also have to think the particular cut of reed gives you a feel and a sensation. You have to make the music, so you want to be comfortable doing it.
What kind of products are you working on for the future?
Good question. Well, we just came out with classical alto, soprano and alto mouthpieces, so we're going to work on a tenor and a baritone. There's some clarinet mouthpieces that are going to come out. We're going to work on a 13 series, a lower pitch version. You're going to see, I think next year, you're going to see a couple of ligatures. For years, they've been talking about wanting to make updated swabs. I mean, I don't know. Look, I mean, we make and sell so many different things that they're always kind of, what should we do, this, that, you know, and it's all, when we all go to these different events, people say, hey, you know, Vandoren really should make this. And if it's not, like, ridiculous, I always write in my email on the way home, was at Berkeley, saw this, a couple people mentioned we should make, you know, a hang glider. And I think it's a great idea, and, you know, whatever, and then that gets sent up, and eventually we have meetings, we talk, and it's more like, all right, so I think I can talk about it, and because we're filming it, I'm in trouble if I say this, but, so we made, you all know the optimum ligature, major revolution coming. We've been asked for so many years to make a gold-plated one, and that's coming. Yay! Yes! No, but I actually tried a prototype, it was really good. And it's, what's great about it too, it's different enough from the regular one. Again, they don't want to make a subtle thing because then it gets confusing. We have to get music stores to buy this stuff from us. Forget about you guys. I got to get a music store to, wait, how many, wait, why do I have to have 7 of the same thing, but they're not the same? But then you have to explain it's a problem. And then, you know, little Billy's mama is on Amazon at 3 in the morning trying to, what did he need? And she opens up and it's 600 different, what do I do? You know, so trying to be mindful of all that as well. So, more questions? Yes, sir.
I didn't really get a chance to introduce David. We got started, but David, for those of you that aren't familiar with him, he's a world-class clarinetist living in New York, plays all over the place, but also works at Vandoren as a product specialist, artist relation manager. And one thing that I think a lot of the students here are interested in and aspire to as, you know, performers and all that, they're wanting to know what are things. I'm assuming you started as an artist before you moved into this role in the company. And what do you all look for people that you are potentially going to endorse? Sure. And what are the things that you offer to all the time?
So I did an undergrad degree at a conservatory, and then I went and studied. I had a little grant to study in France, so I lived in France for a couple of years. When I was doing my undergrad in New York, they opened this Vandoren studio that I now work at. And I I remember going one of the first times. My first memory of that place is walking in the door and some guy with a crew cut, big guy, walking up with a bottle of wine and a glass going, "Here you go." And I'm like, I think I was 17 of it, and very sheltered. I don't think I can drink that. You know, it's like very, very different. But that was Bernard Vandoren. That was my first time I met the guy. Funny enough, you know, it was 10 years? It opened in 93? No, yikes, it went quick. 6 years later, I was working. And that's, in December, it'll be 20 years that I've been working. So, how it worked, came back from France, and the guy that was working there said, "Hey, I'm gonna quit. You need a job, you want me to work for you?" I said, don't put in a word, just call me right after you quit. He called me. The next day I called up the people and said, "Hey, I understand Paul quit. I don't know what you're doing, but if you're interested, I'm looking for a job." And and then I did a couple of interviews where they asked you all those crazy questions. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? You know, which is now really more powerful to think about that right now. Well, it's really kind of scary and sad too. But anyway, enough about me. But I kind of was doing this, and when it started, it was very part-time. It was a couple days a week for a few hours at a time. I think it was like $11 an hour, and that was it. And I was teaching 12 clarinet students on a Saturday out by where my parents lived. You know, I'd leave at 8 in the morning, get home at 9 at night, and hodgepodged it together and started freelancing a little bit. And then also the Vandoren job got more and more involved. And it became a full-time job, and I took it because, you know, when you're freelance, you're waiting for the phone to ring. When you wait for the phone to ring, that means you don't have money coming in. And I have a good friend that has known me for a while, and he says, "I don't see you with an orchestra job because they think you'd be bored." And I always joke and say, "Well, you know, give me the chance, let me get bored." But I actually truly enjoy the variety. I like living in different worlds, in that I played a ballet last night. I've been in this company for a long time, all the other musicians, but you know, flying up to Boston, seeing Walter, David, Aaron, people that I wouldn't have known if I was just a classical musician. And the other thing I like about this, for me, it's taught me a lot of different things about, you know, interpersonal relationships and analyzing things in a different way. I mean, as musicians, we're all equipped with skills that are so far and beyond what a lot of other people study and learn. You know, yes, obviously, if you're becoming a lawyer, you have to find different things. But as musicians, from the very beginning, I mean, really the very beginning, you're told how to do things, and you have to figure it all out along as you go. Because you have a teacher that you see an hour a week, but you're the other one that's there for the other 30 hours a week practicing, whatever, you know? So you're constantly analyzing, so we do this. And then, of course, obviously, the skills of listening while you're playing. So it makes us flexible and ultimately marketable. Why? Because we all know how we would like to be treated as artists. So working in artist relations that I do, you pay the respect to somebody that's achieved what they've achieved, or you pay the respect to somebody that's fighting to make their way. That's important. I mean, I was taught by someone that worked at Vandoren for a lot of years. None of you probably know him except maybe Tony Aldini. His name was Jean-Paul Gauvin, who was responsible for half of the catalog in terms of mouthpiece development, and half of the artists on our artist roster, because he came to New York, met everybody, worked with everybody, and that's how as a company we grew. We got close to the musician. We know what the musician wants. We try to make what they can use. And the big thing that he taught me was, it doesn't matter who they are. You treat everybody the same way, because you never know, for the company, you never know if it's going to go from the 14-year-old kid to the guy who now works at Vandoren, or the 14-year-old kid that's now the principal clarinet of the Chicago Symphony, or the director of jazz at Berkeley, or I mean, it's all, and that also is a kind of just good human relations. I mean, you treat people the same. You treat people how they want to get treated. Except if they play the flute. Sorry. Yes, sir.
Just a brief story.
Uh-oh.
No, I know from me.
Hold on, I gotta go put coins in the meter. Hold on.
Yeah, right. I started using Vandoren products when I was a kid. My teacher told me to, so that was a long time ago. twice as long as one year. But in any case, I remember when, I think it was my second record came out in the mid-90s, I just wrote a letter saying that I loved the products, and there was interest. I mean, there was an answer and there was dialogue. Then when you came on board, I don't know if you recall this or not, but in 2007 I had a small stroke, and I almost quit completely, stopped playing, and I was really pretty despondent about it. And you and John Paul came to Boston, you met with me, you worked with me with mouthpieces, reeds. I learned how to play again, and probably would not be playing today if it hadn't been for you and John Paul. So I want to thank you for that. And also, that to me, that's like, I mean, how can I even?
Well, I mean, it's part of who you are, and it's a part of who we try to be. You know, just want to work with people. And then turning it around for you guys looking to approach a company. Hey, I like this stuff, I want to play it. I can tell you, companies now are really looking to make sure there's a relationship, a two-way street. I don't want an artist, no matter how great they are, calling me up twice a year asking for free reads. So that just doesn't do it. I mean, this is horrible to say. Vandoren's been here before all of us, and it's going to be here after all of us. God willing, at least another 20 years until I retire. But no, but you understand. I mean, it's a generational family company. It's not going to. People are not going to. As smart as we get, we're still not going to stop playing clarinets and saxophones. It's just going to keep going. Knock on wood, so wood. And but nowadays, because there's so many people, because there's so much information, because it's so everything driven, I think a company wants to see someone who's genuine, who's sincere, who really believes in the product, and who wants to work. You know, for me, the big name is one thing, but sometimes also the young hustler that's going to be out there, that's going to teach the 12 lessons on a Saturday and do the 2 or 3 gigs, and also do this, and also do that, and believes in it. That's someone that, again, creates more potential for advancement, more potential for opportunity. So I think that's the sort of stuff that we like. Someone that sends their album to a company saying, hey, I just want to let you know I love the product. It's that simple. And understand the business is a business and what they're trying to do too. I mean, it's obviously makes sense. Question? How are we on time?
20 minutes.
We still have 20 minutes? I did this that fast?
Yeah.
Holy smokes. Wow. Okay. Yes, sir?
Have you ever felt that being in Vandoren has been taken away from playing opportunities that you might have? Like you got to turn down stuff that you might
Look, yeah, I mean, life is compromised, right? I mean, I set up this visit a few weeks ago. I could have been in New York playing a rehearsal today and working in the office in the afternoon. But I mean, it's a compromise. You do different things for different reasons. It's a balance. This has always been incredible to me because it's been consistent and steady. Playing, I mean, I've only gotten busy as a clarinet player the last few years. And that, I mean, say busy, December, I have absolutely no need for a clarinet today for the entire month of December. In other words, no gigs, nothing. And that's fine. You know what I mean? But I think also what's good about this though is I feel like I am equipped to kind of talk the talk a little bit also. That I think I can identify with the problems you may be having with a piece of equipment, or if it's on a more social level, the difficulties in the freelance world, or to brainstorm about how to try to get gigs, or because we've all been there and we've all done that. And again, I really think all of the different parts have helped me along the way to get where I am today. Some days it feels like that, some days less, but I know with clarity it's really true. So we have some time, and if there's not a lot of questions, I have an idea. I have sample reads for alto and tenor and even a little baritone. Would someone like to be a virtual read comparison person for a saxophone? In other words, I'll just give you a couple reads and you can play on them and we can all hear the differences and how it translates to sound as opposed to. Okay? E flat or B flat? Okay. Come on up. Don't worry, it's no pressure. We're not going to ask you to play changes or anything like that. That's Antonio's job for this afternoon. Okay, what do you use now? What do you play on now? Oh, gee whiz. No, okay. Well, it's good. Maybe I'll change that today. So what are you using? 2.5 medium of the jazz select.
Yes.
Select jazz, whatever it's called. 2.5 medium. So we'll just play a couple notes on yours. 2.5 medium. So now every company, now you get these comparisons to see, well, they're 2.5 versus this 2.5 versus, and it gets confusing. So we're going to try 2.5 hours to see if we're questions while we're setting up? Anything else? Yes.
How do you determine which is a ZZ read, which is a Java read?
That's all determined once they're.
Is that the flexibility test?
No, that's the cut. The whole cut's different. Every, the vamp, the cut part of every reed is completely different. The tip shape is very different. So yeah, once it's cut into a blank, they go, okay, these we're going to make this with. So, play one of your reeds for a second. It's dangerous to do this, but. Plus, for me, hearing a little bit of what it sounds like might also steer me in a better way of which reed to maybe try.
What's the most popular?
Java, the green Java. It's also because it's the oldest. That came out in the 80s for us. And we had made jazz reeds before, probably in the 60s and stuff. They were going through our archives, we find like old ads and stuff like that. We mess with them. So you keep your reeds wet?
Yes.
So with reed care and stuff, for me, I just teach people is how do you break in reeds and this common sense with all that stuff for me is what makes sense. So if you're going to keep your reeds soaked in water, I'm just going to say make sure that you don't have a science experiment growing in mold or, mold is not good unless it's on cheese in the right way. Or penicillin. But on reeds, always bad. Always bad. I mean, yes, you can play on it, but I actually have a friend that got basically an infection so bad that he had to have a heart valve replaced, and the only thing they could trace it back was moldy reeds. Perfect. So, all right, let's see if this is the closest match. This is a 2.5 ZZ. But then I also want to try the other ones just to show you guys how a reed can sound different. I just did a trip with, you guys know about the Emerging Artist Competition?
Yes.
Yeah. So I just did the Paris trip with the kid that had won, which is great. I just love this. His name is Rico Jones, but he plays Vandoren. No joke. But anyway, we're at the airport to leave, and he's like, oh, I just got to run to the thing. I'm like, okay. He comes back, and he's got like a little bottle of vodka. I'm like, really? And he was keeping his reeds in a little glass jar and vodka. He said, you got to dump it out and go through secure. I'm like, really? And I'm just, okay, well, you won't get mold with that. But all right, let's just hear. how they are when you start them? It's about the right
Yeah.
size?
Yeah.
About, yeah, I mean, reed to reed, it's hard to compare, so. All right, play a little bit more. You can play loud, play soft, just demonstrate. This one. This is a red 2.5. This might, you may keep all that. Well, you don't have to pay me yet, we'll see how good they are. But already, that sounded pretty good, didn't it? It worked. We're not gonna bash, we're not gonna compare that way. I'll let you make all the, I'll let you draw all the conclusions just as long as Vandoren comes out on top. Very different, right? But you know, you're laughing, but that's exactly why they're different, why you could use different cuts of reeds for different reasons. A cut might lend itself to a different type of music, for a different type of situation. Now, just out of curiosity, let's try a harder one of that. I'm just curious. A little more air. Come on, come on. No. Yeah, it's probably too firm, but again, different reeds react different ways. You put in more air, everything changes, obviously, so it's always doable. All right, so let's go back in another direction. Oh, sorry. Hope everybody's paying attention. It's a quiz on the way out to get your extra credit. That's a that's two. Try a 3 in that one. If that works. You're all hearing differences, right?
Yeah.
Making sure. Just making sure. You're awfully quiet back there. I was warm.
Respectful of you, sir.
Wow. It's the first time you're showing me any sign of respect. Very nice. Closer in size. And they all sound different, right? Yes, sir?
When you do artist relations and you're looking at people with, I would assume it's type of contract, do you insist that they always play Vandoren products? So let's say an artist has Vandoren mouthpiece, but they want to use a different ligature. Is that okay, or is that kind of forbidden with the contract?
Well, everything is kind of case by case. Because we make everything, we ultimately want the artist to play everything. But that's not always going to happen for us because we're a reed company first. Reeds are a must. If you're not going to play our reed, there's no reason to have the relationship. After that, a mouthpiece, well, some people it becomes difficult because, wait a minute, if you're playing a Meyer mouthpiece, I make something was inspired by that should be even a little bit more consistent. You should be able to make it work, so we kind of lean on people for that. A ligature, you know, we sell plenty of those too, but that's not the deal breaker. If you play a mouthpiece that we just don't have anything remotely comparable, well then you weigh the thing, is it important to have the relationship or not? You know, is it someone that you want to work with? Or are they that committed that they love the read so much that, I mean, I get emails every day. I want to be this, I want to do that. I mean, sometimes it's like, wow, you know, I just can't do it because there's just too many people to try. But you know, you try to weigh and see what makes sense for both sides. Then let's hear this. This is a VCT. Okay, so out of all of them, wait, out of all of them, what did you guys like? Of mine, don't say his. Is easy, someone says easy?
I like the one that you gave that was the most like the one you were using.
So that was the first one, okay. So, and what about you? Oh, that red, John, where we tried, it was a little soft, okay. Well, then we're gonna try to make everybody happy here. You're gonna play another one of these. This is a number 2.5, maybe we'll try it 3, but it might, you know, everybody's different. If you want more air and stuff in the sound, then 3 definitely. If you want a kind of a purer sound. Plus, the way all reeds break in, all that changes for everybody too, right? And it's not a one rule that a reed starts hard and gets soft. I know people that say, well, it starts, then it drops, then it gets hard, or it starts and always gets hard. Every person is very different because we're reacting to what we feel, right? Fair. I mean, whose reeds get softer over time? Raise your hand. Whose reeds get harder over time? Don't be shy, you can raise your hand if you want. Well, then we're all normal in this room, everybody else. I would say out of the box, this goes fine. Let's just try a harder one to see. We might not like it at all, but we're here. Don't you wish you raised your hand to volunteer now? Think of all the reeds he's going to go home with? It's delicate. You never know when you're supposed to volunteer. 5 minutes. 5 minutes! Okay. We're going to try this, and then we're going to try more of what you got. Okay. Little difference with the harder one, right? Not too much, but still. The plastic reed protectors are recyclable. Cane, the reeds, biodegradable, and this is energy recoverable. Yes, sir.
Seriously?
Yes.
You have a system for
Yes.
rotating reeds?
Yeah,
or
sure.
breaking them in and-
So for
and
me,
so it's like-
reed care, common sense, okay? It's a piece of grass that's been growing for 2 years in a factory, above walls, thing, 4 or 5, whatever. Baby steps. You get it wet in saliva, you play it for a few seconds. It's it's never been in saliva, it's never vibrated, it's finally getting unwrapped out of this into the real environment. So first play maybe 10, 15, 20 seconds, then try to wait, let it dry, come back, do maybe double that, maybe 30, 40 seconds, a minute, whatever, let it dry, come back. You're basically breaking it in, you're getting it used to this. What's happening when you're breaking it in, all the moisture from your saliva is getting into those pores and it's clogging it up. The minerals and stuff that's in our saliva clogs up the pores, closes them up, and that's how you're breaking in a reed. So common sense, it's never done something before. You don't run first, you learn to walk a little bit at a time, and then when you feel confident that it's broken in and you feel good about it, then you can start playing. For me, a friend called it wet dry cycles, and it makes sense. When you play it, I do 3 or 4 times and then go. And then a rotation, you shouldn't play on one reed till it's dead and go. Even in his bottle here, we've got 3 or 4 reeds. 3, 4, 5 reeds. Maybe you when you're practicing, go through them often, but if a gig, you don't want to change in the middle of a gig unless that's what you do. And you want to just play the set, but know that if you play on a new reed for a long time, you're going to kill it. It's hard to come back from an hour on a great reed. See this? This is another 2.5 of the red that you like. And I forget if we tried another 3. You still like this one better?
Yes.
Good. It's something different. And that's funny how the average people here liked a different cut than what you did. So that brings up a whole different set of questions. When you're playing, who are you playing? Is it half of it's about us, what we hear, but the other half is what we hear here. And I've done some classical recording things, and I told you before, I showed up to a recording session, my first album ever. I'd never been more prepared with reeds in my whole life. I had beautifully broken in reeds. I had old reeds. I had almost broken in reeds. I had slightly broken in reeds. I had brand new reeds. And then I had the emergency kit of a mix of everything else. I got in the recording session, nothing felt good. We recorded the first hour, it sounded so bad to me, and I'm like, this is my whole life here. It can't sound bad, especially that I work for Vandoren, especially that it's all out of my own pocket that I'm trying to do this thing. So I panicked, I went down, I opened up my emergency kit that had, a bunch of brand new reeds of different cuts and sizes. I always kind of have that because you go to a different acoustic, you might want a different thing. And I had a blue box, I had a couple of I was playing with V12 reeds, I had a couple of blue box, I hadn't played blue box in probably a decade, I don't know. And I just opened out like the first reed, wow, okay, I can do this. And I had 3 or 4 of them, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna rotate them. So I would do a take, and I'd put on a new one, do another take, switch, and I just kept rotating those 4 over the span of a day and a half, and that was it.
Blue box rules.
Thank you, exactly right. The blue box reeds are our #1 seller. That's it. But here, let's do the last one, and we'll stop. Great. So thank you for being our demonstrator. Hope you opened your mind up to other things. And so I've got not that many for everybody, but I've got some reeds for everybody if you want. Basically, I have a little bit of blue box clarinet and bass clarinet, and then I've got alto, tenor, and even a little, I think I have baritone here too, maybe. So if anybody wants to come up, yeah. And the idea, hopefully what you heard from what he did, take something you don't know. Like try a different cut, like you say, oh, he played this one, so. Well, you're here first, so.
What do you have to vary?
What size do you have?
I use primarily Red Java 2 and 2.5.
Red Java 2.5, so you never.
I've never had very good.
They're a little stronger. There you go. Yep. Cool.